Hello, I'm John David Bruja, just off the Halifax Harbor on George's Island in Nova Scotia, and welcome to a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner. Well, today we begin at North Cape Lighthouse. The first one was just a light at the end of the pier in 1861. It took until 1865 before they completed the lighthouse, but they had to wait 2 more years before the light arrived for the lantern in 1867. At a height of 62 feet, it is located along supposedly one of the largest rocky reefs in North America, running approximately 1.5 miles long, dividing the Gulf of St. Lawrence and the Northumberland Strait. The General Superintendent of Lighthouses called it one of the most important light stations on the island in 1874. It moved several times, but the final one was in 1951 when they added a dwelling and 2 sheds, which were later sold in the 1960s. The North Cape Lighthouse, which was also known as North Point, was finally automated in 1967. Along with a museum, restaurant, and gift shop, the North Cape Lighthouse also has a wind energy interpretive center. Well, the next light is Big Tignish Lighthouse. The first one arrived in 1877, but the second and current one behind us came in 1881 at 30 feet in height. A second light was put on a pole added at the North Pier in 1883, and the Big Tignish Lighthouse was electrified in 1962. The 1881 light was built at a cost of over $1,100 and converted to a coastal light in 1989. Unfortunately, it was decommissioned in 1997 and relocated here to the Fisherman's Haven Park at nearby Tignish Store in 2008. Well, it's time for lunch, but I thought I'd go down to the end of the pier and check out another lighthouse. It's the Keskampeck Lighthouse, which you can see on that little island behind me in the distance. The first light arrived in 1854, and the second and current one arrived in 1876, along with its dwelling, for roughly $1,900 at a height of 49 feet. It's located on Sandy Island. The light was sold in 1968 to 4 individuals from Charlottetown. And after lunch, we checked out the Sea Rescue Station in Northport. Built in 1907, the single-story wood frame building remained operational until the 1920s. The Sea Rescue Station was moved to its current location in 1967 and served as an interpretive center since 2003. Well, we are at our last lighthouse of the day, Northport Rear Range Lighthouse. First arrived, and the current one behind us, in 1897 at a height of 39 feet. It's now located next to the Northport Community Center overlooking, guess what, Northport Harbor. It has been raised twice and moved 4 times. It was originally an open frame tower, but it was enclosed in 1903. It was a front range light until 1962. Well, it was the end of the day, but we weren't quite through yet. Some of us checked out the Canadian Potato Museum in O'Leary, Prince Edward Island. And through an interpretive center, we learned anything and everything about the potato and its history. And then we checked out a large collection of farm equipment and there was even a section on the history of the local city of O'Leary. Well, now that we're in Prince Edward Island, I thought we'd find out some interesting facts about the island. Like, it is one of 13 provinces and territories in Canada, yet it is the smallest province in land area and population, but the most densely populated. Speaking of which, the capital, Charlottetown, where we are right now, is the largest city in Prince Edward Island. It covers almost 2,200 square miles in area. It has approximately 177,000 people in population. It was colonized by the French in 1604, and it joined Canada as the 7th province in 1873. And it is the only Canadian province that is consistently solely an island. Despite Mother Nature's attempt to dampen our spirits, we made it to our first lighthouse of the day, Fish Island Lighthouse. The first one appeared in 1876, and the current one behind me in 1961 at 23 feet in height, with windows on all sides of the wooden lantern, and a single window on the seaward side. Fish Island Lighthouse is located at the entrance to Malpeque Bay, but unfortunately, due to weather and other circumstances, it was deemed unuseful. Our next lighthouse, the Malpeque Outer Range Rear Lighthouse, behind me is located, guess where? In the middle of a farmer's field. The first light occurred in 1889, and the second and current lighthouse that you see behind me arrived in 1922. Obviously not here, and it's at a height of 22 feet. Well, after leaving the farmer's field, we made it down here to see the Malpeque Outer Range Front Lighthouse behind me. Malpeque Outer Range Front Lighthouse is located in Darnley Point, east of the entrance to Malpeque Bay. The roughly 46-foot wooden tower was built in the 1920s, with the station established around 1889. And it is another lighthouse that needs some attention. Yeah, and if you happen to have a few minutes in Prince Edward Island, check out the L.M. Montgomery Museum. Built back in 1872 by the author's aunt and uncle, the museum is located in Park Corner. And I took advantage of the rain stoppage and toured the grounds, checking out the well, the lake of shining waters, unfortunately with overcast skies. But then it was inside the museum, with all of its rich literary history and abundant artifacts, including Anne's enchanted bookcase, the organ used in her wedding, quilts, and so much more. And what would a trip to the Anne of Green Gables Museum be without a stop at the gift shop? But now it's back to another lighthouse. First, we had to walk through a farm field to see a lighthouse. Now we walked almost a mile to the cliff 50 feet behind me, Cape Tryon. First built in 1905, it's located at the northwest of New London Harbor, red sandstone cliff. It was replaced with a new tower in 1962. It was mentioned in Anne's House of Dreams by Lucy Maud Montgomery. And after it was decommissioned in 1964, it was moved here to Cape Road, where it sat empty and neglected. We are now at our next lighthouse, the New London Lighthouse, built in 1876 at a height of 40 feet, and has a unique distinction of having a woman as a lighthouse keeper, one of the few on Prince Edward Island. With a narrow two-story dwelling added to the landward side that's square at the base and tapers off to the tower. The tower was electrified in 1958 and remains active today. Well, we are at our last lighthouse for the day, North Point Rustico. First in 1876, the current one behind me in 1899 at a height of 34 feet and faces the Gulf of St. Lawrence. The original capsized in 1899 during a northeast gale and became a coastal light, and a new light became a back range, and it was electrified and automated in 1960. And locals rallied to save the historic light, and the Coast Guard returned the light to the lighthouse in 1976, and North Port Rustico remains active today, as you can see the light in the lantern room rotating continuously. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm John David Bruja, on location at Prince Edward Island, standing in front of the Port Borden Range Lighthouse. This has been a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner, United States Lighthouse Society, Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island Tour. I hope you enjoyed the ride.